we will just ignore that and we'll just do a normal record. All right. All right, so welcome everybody to the Boost Hospitality Podcast. This is season 6, episode 5. And in this episode, we are going to talk about networking and, more importantly, how to network the right way. It's a topic that I've wanted to speak about for a while now. And the reason being is I see so many people in the serviced accommodation world on the Facebook, just mass adding people. My own personal Facebook has been bombarded with friend requests and no actual message to find out why. It's not only until I send a message back saying, hey, what's the friend request for, that I actually then get the message back saying, I'm looking to grow my network, I'm looking to meet more people, which is all well and good, but there's right ways and wrong ways to network. And that's just online. That's not to mention about offline events. And the reason why I wanted to do this episode in particular is because I feel that if we can talk about networking and if we can sort of take away the spammy aspect of it, we can talk about the powerful aspect of it and how we can do it for good. It will be a great way of not only growing your network, your reach of people that you can reach out to discuss about service accommodation and growing the business, but it's also a great way to helping you grow your business in service accommodation. Now, like every episode of this season of the Boost Hospitality Podcast, I've reached out to a guest, and this week I've decided to get on somebody that I've been wanting to chat to for a long time. It's Elaine Watts of the HLS podcast. Elaine has got a Facebook group. She's got a fantastic website. She's got a fantastic community. She does monthly meetups. She goes to a lot of events, and I couldn't think of anybody else better to speak to when it comes to talking about network. So without further ado, I am going to bring her onto the show. And Elaine, if you could do me a massive favor and just introduce yourself to the audience, let everybody know a little bit more about you and just how you got into this world of property and holiday lettings, please.
Yeah. Hey, Mark. Thanks for inviting me. It's so good to talk to you finally, because we've been crossing paths online for such a while. I've been following what you're doing and it's super exciting. So thank you. It's great to talk to you. So my name is Elaine Watts, as Mark has said. I am the host of the Holiday Let Success podcast. I got into hospitality coming up for 5 years ago now. My original background was always property. My family have always done up properties, sales, network marketing, and customer service. And I think I never really knew exactly what it was that I wanted to do. And I think I've managed to pull all of those things together and find all of that within the hospitality industry. So yeah, it all came together, and here I am 5 years later.
Amazing. So where are you based in the world?
I am in Worcestershire, in the UK. So where Birmingham is, and kind of left.
Birmingham and header left. Love it.
Yeah.
So when did you first venture into the world of property, as in when did you start to run a rental business and whatnot? Can you give like a sort of a time scale? When we're filming this July 2019, what's the sort of path that you've taken since venturing into it to where we are now?
Okay, so I started off, me and my husband and our 4 children, we moved to Worcester about 9 years ago, and it took us ages to find somewhere. We wanted somewhere we could do up, and we finally found this place we wanted to have as our forever home. We both moved around a lot, but found this place, and there's a Victorian walled garden out of the back, and there was this little door that went through this really overgrown area, and we found this, what used to be a gardener's room. And my mind starts ticking straight away before we've even moved in. What could I do with that? And after we moved in, we decided we'd do it up. And first of all, it was for my husband to work in as an office. But that didn't last long, because I was like, Stuart, out! I've got a plan for this. So shoved him in a corner in the house. but don't worry, he's looked after now. He's got a lovely place to sit now. It was temporary. So this tiny little place, it's just a little studio. And I really got started there, just got started with Airbnb, really got the bug, started to grow. And we had a place up in Sheffield, and that place we moved from long-term let to short-term let. And that probably was about a year after. It took me a year, I would say, to start to feel confident that I could operate something from a distance. And since then, I've now got another 4 places, and I'll probably stick at 4 for now, and focus on building up my bookings here and building up the Holiday Let Success podcast, and hopefully sharing what I've learned so far before growing further.
I like how you segue onto the podcast. That was one of my next questions. So when did you think about getting started with a podcast? What was the inspiration behind it? And when did you just go, you know what, I'm just going to record something and see how it goes?
Well, really, I started it because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing when I first got going. As a holiday rental owner, I had absolutely no idea. And I knew that I needed to learn internet marketing as well as just relying on the OTAs. I knew I wanted some form of control of my business. So I delved into learning about internet marketing, and that was when I first found out about podcasting. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is obviously what I've got to do. So I thought, I can't be the only person who is in this situation thinking, I have no idea how to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. And I thought it would be great to share with other people that were in a similar situation to me, to hopefully help them get the hang of it, take control of their business and grow and make it into something with longevity, with a future. And it gave me a really good excuse to speak to people that were doing this and take some amazing advice. I've had the opportunity to speak to just some absolutely incredible people across the industry. Now,
what was the first thing that you did when you wanted to start to get guests on the show? Because this is like really is sort of going back to what we were talking about as a topic, and the theme of this is about networking. So how did you pluck up the courage to go and speak to somebody and say, hey, come on my show, this is my podcast? What did you do? How did you go about it? And yeah, just sort of share some gems in that, if you could, please.
Yeah, sure. So to pluck up the courage, I literally just decided I'm going to have to do this. It's now, I've written it down. It's a goal. It's got to happen. It's on the list. So it's got to be ticked off. So I decided that I would reach out in a way that took everything off me and went onto them, the person that I was contacting. So I found people that I thought were super interesting in the industry, and I found people that I thought I would be able to reach out to via email, rather than, I started following them on social media, etc., and learned a bit about them and read up on them. And then I found people that I found that I could just send an email straight through to them. And I tried to attempt to talk to them from a way of, how can I help you? Rather than going in to say, what can I get from you? What can I get from this person? And just going, this is my business, this is what I'm doing, trying to sell myself and trying to sell my business. I went in from a different position of, can I help you share what it is you're doing with other holiday home owners via a podcast? Yes, I'm new, but I would love you to be one of my first guests. Big plans for it, and I really think what you're doing would be fantastic for other holiday homeowners, and I'd love to share it.
And just a quick one: when is this in the sort of timescale? What year is this?
I actually started the podcast within letting out the holiday home, so about coming up for 5 years, horribly coming up for 5 years ago. I don't know where that time has flown by. So yeah, it was really quick, because I just thought, I've got to learn. I need to know what I'm doing.
That's amazing.
I need to know.
What I like about that is, well, number one, the reason why I think that it has worked so well is 5 years ago, podcasts were still kind of new. Now you can get podcasts readily, and you can start a podcast so easy. Literally, if you've got an Anchor account, you can just record something on your phone, put it on there, and it's a podcast. 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. And by reaching out to, the people on your list, and by saying, I've got an audience, people were sort of starting to figure out about podcast marketing, about how to spread their knowledge on this audio platform, and starting to realize that audio is such a consumable content. It's something that you don't have to sit down and watch. You don't have to attend a 2-day event just to do it. You can literally listen in your car, or you can do it whereas you're, doing the dishes or the ironing, or just walking the dog, or however. It's the way that people consume audio, the way that people will be consuming this. It's no two are the same. So it's a great idea and fantastic. So do you remember the first person you ever reached out to be a guest on the show?
Yes, I do. It was, I'll never forget, because I was so nervous when I did the recording, and I was dreading hearing my voice back. It was Phil Schofield, not of breakfast television fame, but Phil Schofield of Schofield's Insurance.
Okay.
They provide holiday home insurance. So he was a great one to start with, because again, that was an area I needed to know about quickly.
I like
and he
this.
helped me.
What I like about that is that you're speaking to an expert in the field, and you're doing it on a platform where you can learn, but you're obviously then going to help others learn at the same time. And another way to look at it, and this is what I like, what a lady called Janet Murray does, is Janet Murray is, if you've ever listened to her earlier podcasts, and I've listened to a lot of her podcasts, I think she's an award-winning podcaster. She's fantastic at what she does. But in the earlier podcast, she was doing exactly the same. She was building up her business and bringing in experts. And it was pretty much like a free coaching call, but where everybody could listen to, because you're asking the experts, you're getting advice, and you can pretty much tailor the questions, where it's like, so what would you do in this situation? It's like a friend is asking this question, my friend, but really it's like writing all the notes down. I'm going to put this into practice straight away afterwards. Great stuff. So again, coming back to the topic, how can you network without being spammy? This is a great way. Elaine has touched upon some really good little bits, and I've been writing this down. So number one, don't just go straight in bombarding with messages. Follow on social media, find people that you find interesting, find out a little bit more about them, and then when you're confident at that point, put together an email. Find their real email address and send them an email. Don't try and do it on a platform where they've got so much noise. Like, for example, Twitter is a good example. 5 years ago, everybody was using the Twitter, and if you were to send maybe a direct message on that platform, it would be lost in all the other hundreds of people who'd be sending direct messages trying to get their time. Take a bit of time, craft out something, and send them an email. Was it so when you reached out to Phil, was it quite easy to explain what a podcast was, and did it take a little bit of time to explain what was going on? Were they quite receptive to it?
Do you know, I've never had a problem with people not knowing what a podcast was, and I've actually only, out of so many guests that I've invited, I've only ever had one person turn that down, and it was because his English was his second language, and he was a little nervous about doing the full podcast. But aside from that, anybody I've spoken to, and they jump at the chance to be able to share what it is that they're doing. Because what other way? I mean, they're on social media, they've got their own website, but where have they actually had the chance to explain step by step purely what it is that they do, with some really good questions just pulled out, which I needed to ask, and I knew that other holiday homeowners would ask as well. Where have they got that opportunity? So it was just like a no-brainer for most people, and I hope that part of the yes was the way that I approached.
Good. I'm sure it was, because if you'd have gone it any other way, you'd have had a lot more no's than you did yeses. So we quickly mentioned Twitter there, and there's something that you have started up. If you'd like to just segue into talking about Book Direct Hour and how that came about and how it all works, and more importantly, how people can join in.
Sure. So hashtag Book Direct Hour is something that I've started on Twitter. Takes place at HLS Pod on Twitter every Friday at 12 o'clock UK time. The reason I started it was because Twitter, as you just touched on, is such a noisy place. And it's when you're using Twitter, you want to be on Twitter, but you can start feeling like you're just slinging tweets out into a chasm. You've no idea if they're really getting looked at to start with, and it can feel like it's just going out into emptiness. You're trying to check if you're using the right hashtags. You're trying to check if you're speaking to people at the right time of day. There's so many things to think about, and you want your presence to be there. But what I wanted to do was to try to give people who are time poor when it comes to marketing on Twitter a way to really concentrate those marketing efforts into a single hour per week and really just get everybody's eyes on this one section. If we all power up during that hour using hashtag Book Direct Hour, we're all focused on the same thing, and that's sharing, first of all, how good it is to book direct. And I hope that it supports the book direct movement, which has started brilliantly by Amy Highnote over in America. I really hope that it supports that, and it supports all of us as individual holiday homeowners. Share the message that people can book direct. They don't automatically have to go to the OTAs, and they can get better stuff coming direct to us.
I think it's working. I saw a news article this week, and again, this is being recorded in July 2019. For everybody that, when you come to listen to it, you'll already know you've had an email this week from Booking.com where they are just adjusting how we, as property owners, can market our properties. They are doing so because they have seen there is a bigger need now from the public to book direct. They are actually going and actively searching properties. And this is definitely because I believe that there are more people talking about it. When I mean people, I mean hospitality owners and property owners are talking about book direct, the benefits of doing so. People are becoming more wiser to why they should book direct. And I honestly believe it's because of, groups and online Facebook groups and Twitter support and all the things that are just been going on where we've been educating the owners to educate the guests. And I think that we are starting to see a nice little shift. Hopefully this continues. Hopefully this keeps going. But things like this on Twitter, online, where we're talking about it and we have a dedicated hour to it and there's dedicated days to it on social media, I think it will long continue. Okay, so taking it from the world of online to the world of offline. Now you host monthly meetups in your local area. You attend events and conferences. When did you decide to do it? Why did you decide to do it? And what benefits have you seen for not only the HLS podcast, but for the rental business? What benefits have you seen for your business from doing so?
Yeah, I have seen a lot of benefit. There's two sides to my networking, really. And one side is for the Holiday Let's Success podcast. And that's really the meetups on a monthly basis. And I think it's building, what I wanted to do was build a community, a place where people can meet in person and see there are other people that are doing this, because it's quite a lonely industry to be in. If you're an individual owner, you are faced with your computer day in, day out, and of course your guests. But aside from that, you haven't always got somewhere where you can go to talk through issues and niggles, what's working, what's not working, and how to overcome those bumps in the road that we all have when we're learning, when we're getting set up. And certainly when we're past learning and setting up, there's always something happening. There's always going to be a bump in the road. And just to be able to share that and find out what someone else might have done in that instance, I mean, that's been brilliant for me as a business owner. and given me the chance to talk to humans. So that's been really good, not just sitting behind my computer. So from that side, great.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did you go about creating it? How did you go about spreading the word? And yeah, just how did you get it going? And what would be your advice to anybody who's watching this thinking, I could do with a bit of humanization? Speaking to somebody else, I might create something similar. Like what some bits of tips and advice would you pass on for that?
I would say keep it casual to get started with, and meet somewhere that's got parking and that is easy to get to, because I've learned from another event that I organise, a Toastmasters meeting where I learned to public speak. One of the biggest things that made our club such a success was the fact that it was very easy for people to get there. And so I really learnt a lot from setting that up, and I just duplicated that for holiday homeowners. I was like, why aren't I doing this meeting for holiday homeowners? And one of the biggest successes I've had is with meetup.com. And that is a great online tool. There's also an app. Meetup shares any event that is going on in your area. You can go to meetup.com and you can search my area within however many miles about whatever your subject is. And everything, all the meetups under that subject within that distance of your area will pop up on there. So I knew there were people searching for this, so I was straight onto meetup.com. I've also talked about it a lot on social media, but meetup.com, hugely successful. I also use, what's it called? Eventbrite.
There you go. Eventbrite.
Yes,
nice
got
one.
there in the end.
I was going to ask about Eventbrite, but yeah, definitely Eventbrite is a real good place for advertising anything like meetup.com. Fantastic. So those are some good little tools and tips. I especially like the parking takeaway from that. That's a very good bit of advice. You don't want people rocking up complaining that they've had to walk for 20 minutes just to get.
Or indeed not coming at all, because it's a barrier. If people are going to have an opportunity to, I want it easy. I want them to be able to come and enjoy it, and want them to come back again.
So it's a really interesting journey that you've gone down. Like you say, you've started up with the property or properties, and pretty much straight away you've created the podcast, and you've used it as a way to meet people. You've used it as a way to get more insight to your business, which has helped you, which has been fantastic. And now you've sort of transitioned again to where you've got the Facebook group, you've got the training website. You're doing all these sort of extra things now where you're sort of coaching and helping other rental owners. What was the transition to that like? What made you do it, and what have you found to be the benefits of doing so?
I think what I wanted to do was just help people who were where I was a few years ago, because oftentimes it's just a very few pieces of information that are missing. It's a bit of guidance. It's pointing people in the right direction, giving them the confidence to go ahead and make the changes, or to systemize, or to take on a channel manager, or to vary their marketing, or to really look outside what it is they're doing, just see that there are other ways, because you can get very stuck in what it is that you're doing and not really look up and find that there's lots of different things going on. There's lots of different ways to market your property. And people could be struggling along, not knowing that there's other people out there feeling the same. So I wanted to imagine if I was back there where I was, that there was somebody like me that I could have reached out to that was just a little bit further down the road than I was, just to share everything that had occurred and just help them through it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's like you've transitioned and created a third part to the business. And over the last couple of years since doing that, have you got from all the businesses that you do, have you got a favorite failure? So what I mean by this is something that you've done, something that's gone wrong, and you've absolutely flipped it from a negative into a positive, and where you can look back at it now and go, yeah, that was something that's gone wrong, but we fixed it, we've created it, and it's turned out all the better for it?
I hate this question because there are so many things I did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many to choose from. There's numerous things. So I was trying to pick out something that would be useful for people who are listening to try and avoid. And I think what I did that was the biggest, actually, I thought I was moving forwards quickly, and actually I probably slowed myself down purely by not having enough systems in place to know exactly what to do in every situation, because I tried to grow without having that there. So I'm taken on 2 properties without first having all the systems in place, from already having 3 set up. So I moved very quickly from 3 to 5. And I know there's people out there that they're taking on loads and loads of properties and they're growing like crazy. But for me, I needed the framework 100% complete. And because I had to then focus on building up these 2 new properties, I hadn't really finished off exactly what it was, exactly how I was going to market these properties and who it was I was marketing to. And because I didn't finish that off, my message wasn't clear, and I didn't get enough bookings in straight away. So I had to step back, systemize, decide who it was I was talking to, and really hone my message. And then I started to build everything up again and really start moving forwards. But it was I was just so desperate to grow. And it, with hindsight, I probably made life more difficult for myself.
No, and I guarantee that you will not be the only one at all, scaling and growing a business, but then not having the systems and the structure in place. I can guarantee that 80% of the people that listening or watching this back will be like nodding their head going, yep, yeah, absolutely, because it is something. And it's another thing that doesn't really get mentioned enough, I think. And thankfully now there are a lot of people out there that have started businesses which are helping other businesses to system and scale in the world of hospitality, which is good to see. We had Amanda and David in episode 3 of this podcast, and they've got a business called SA Angels, which we spoke about building a system, building a structure, outsourcing your business to mean that you can look after the more important tasks. So that is very good. So we have talked about it a little bit. We talked about the podcast and the coaching business and whatnot. Could you just give people a little bit more of an idea of, if they wanted to find the podcast, if they wanted to find out more about you, if they wanted to attend any events that you're running, what's the best way for people right now to go and do so?
Absolutely. If you want to take a listen to the podcast, you can go to the iTunes store and search in Holiday Let Success, and you will find us there. We're also on anywhere that you get your podcasts, you will find us. Alternatively, you can head to the website, which is hlspod.com/podcast, and you can listen there too. If you wanted to have a chat with me, I would love to have a chat with you, even if it's just to vent something or share something that you've struggled with, or even if it's something just to share something that's been going great. Head to hlspod.com/Zoom and book a 20-minute call with me. I'd love to chat to you.
Amazing. All right, well, thank you very much for this. I really hope that everybody tuning in goes and checks out the podcast. There are a ton of episodes, loads of episodes. Like, you can literally scroll down and pick out anything that you want from all sides of aspects of a business, which I have done, which has been really good for me, just to find out more about the industry, more about how all these other little things work. It's a really good little tool to do so. And I encourage everybody, it doesn't matter whether you are a guest house owner, a hotel owner, a rental owner, obviously, but it's for everybody in the world of hospitality, because there's so much tactics and tips in there. Elaine, thank you very much for being
my pleasure
this show, and thank you everybody for tuning in. So as you can tell, this is season 6 of the Boost Hospitality podcast. That means you've got 5 more seasons that you can go and check out right now. Again, just go to boostly.co.uk/podcast. Each season has been packaged up to talk about different topics. The first season talks about how you can increase your direct bookings in just 5 steps. We even interview other hospitality owners about their biggest tactics and tips for boosting their direct bookings, all the way up to last season, where I show you how to run a Facebook competition step by step, and you can tune in and you can just follow those steps. So thank you very much for listening to this. Please go and check out the rest. Are available, like we said, on iTunes, and thanks to Anchor, they literally put us everywhere, Spotify, you name it. But before you do leave, please head over to iTunes. This is where I want you to go, and go leave one of those lovely 5-star reviews to get more people aware of it. And if you want to find out anything else about Boostly, just go to boostly.co.uk. Thank you very much, and we'll be back for another episode very, very soon. And we stop recording.